The brig of the Thracian Dreadspire smelled like ozone and old blood, and Darian Voss was fairly certain he was about to add his own to the mix. He'd been a cargo hauler. A nobody. A man who flew junk freight between human colonies and asked no questions, because questions got you killed out on the rim. But 3 days ago his ship had been snagged by a tractor beam wrapped in violet lightning, and now he was kneeling on a floor that pulsed like it was alive, in front of a woman who was, by every account he'd heard whispered in smugglers' bars across known space, the single most terrifying being in the galaxy. Lady Vespera Kaltyrn, warlord matriarch of the Obsidian bloodline, devourer of the Corvette fleet, the crimson silence of the Thessian front. She was 9 feet of pale violet skin and black-veined elegance, draped in armor that looked grown rather than forged, with eyes like twin dying stars, deep red, ringed in gold, ancient beyond reckoning. Her people didn't just kill their enemies. They drained them. Slowly. While they screamed. It was said she'd personally ended 43 species worth of resistance movements by walking into their command bunkers alone and walking out alone, dripping. "You are the human who flew into restricted Thracian space," she said. Her voice was low, resonant, like something felt in the chest more than heard. "Explain why I should not simply open you and drink the answer." Darian's mouth was dry. His hands were shaking. He should have been thinking about escape routes, about the diplomatic immunity his cargo manifest technically granted him, about literally anything strategic. Instead, his stupid, terrified, adrenaline-soaked brain did the one thing it apparently did under mortal threat: it blurted out the truth. "You're so beautiful." Silence. The 2 Thracian guards flanking the throne went rigid. One of them actually took a step back, like Darian's words were a live grenade rolling toward Vespera's feet. Vespera herself did not move. Did not blink. The temperature in the chamber seemed to drop several degrees, and somewhere in the bowels of the ship, something mechanical screamed and died, as if the vessel itself had flinched on her behalf. "What," she said, "did you say to me?" Darian's brain caught up to his mouth about 4 seconds too late, and panic flooded in right behind it. Abort. Abort. Why did I say that? Why did I say that? I didn't mean, he swallowed. I mean, I did mean it, I just didn't mean to say it, it sort of fell out. You're just there's a lot of you, presence-wise, and it's look, I have been awake for 40 hours and I think my brain has stopped doing quality control on what comes out of my mouth. Please don't drink me. One of the guards made a small, strangled sound that might have been a suppressed laugh, and was immediately silenced by a look from Vespera that could have stripped paint. She rose from her throne. 9 feet of violet death uncoiling upward, wings of black chitin folding open behind her like a sentence finishing itself. She descended the steps toward him with the unhurried grace of a predator that had never once needed to hurry, because nothing had ever escaped. Darian had read, in the smuggler bars, in the classified briefings the colonial militia occasionally leaked, that the Thracian vampire aristocracy fed not just on blood, but on fear. That terror seasoned the meal. That Vespera in particular could taste hesitation like a sommelier tasted tannins, and that men twice his size and 10 times his training had wept and begged before her, and she had found it boring. She stopped in front of him. Crouched, so her dying star eyes were level with his. "Do you know," she said softly, "how many compliments I have received in 412 years of conquest?" Darian shook his head, not trusting his voice. "None," she said. "Fear, yes. Worship, yes, hollow, performative, the kind given to a thing one hopes will not notice you. Hatred, often, and I respect hatred, it has spine. But never that. Never spoken plainly, by a creature trembling so hard I can hear his pulse from here, who clearly expected me to kill him for saying it." "I mean," Darian said, voice cracking, "you might still kill me for saying it." "I might," she agreed. "It would certainly be simpler." She reached out, one clawed, elegant hand, and Darian flinched so hard he nearly toppled backward. But she didn't strike him. She simply tilted his chin up with one finger, studying him the way a being might study a malfunctioning instrument that had, against all odds, produced one true note. Humans, she said, almost to herself. My intelligence reports said you were irrational. Reckless. That your species runs headlong into danger, gibbering nonsense, unable to help yourselves. Her mouth curved, not quite a smile, something colder and far more interested than a smile. I considered this a flaw to be exploited. A weakness. It is a weakness, Darian said weakly. I just told a vampire warlord she's pretty while she was deciding whether to drain me. That's not a strength, that's a malfunction. Perhaps. Vesper straightened, releasing his chin, and circled him slowly, the way she might circle a piece of salvage she hadn't yet decided whether to keep or scrap. But every species I have conquered learned, eventually, to lie to me beautifully. Diplomats who praised my eyes while measuring the distance to the nearest exit. Generals who called me magnificent while poisoning my wine. I have eaten 1,000 pretty lies, human. I know exactly what they taste like. She stopped behind him. Leaned down, her voice a low current against his ear. That was not a lie. No, Darian admitted, because lying to her now seemed like the single stupidest possible follow-up to the stupidest possible opening line in galactic history. It really wasn't. I'm sorry. I know it's a terrible time to bring up. I know you could end my entire bloodline before I finish this sentence. You walked in and the room kind of stopped being about anything else. For a long moment, the only sound in the chamber was the low thrum of the ship's reactor and the soft creak of Vesper's wings shifting behind her. Then she laughed. It wasn't a kind laugh. It had edges, like everything about her, low and rich and a little bit cruel, the laugh of something that had not found genuine amusement in a very long time and wasn't entirely sure what to do with the sensation now that it had arrived. The guards exchanged a glance of pure, undisguised terror, because apparently an amused Vespera was a wholly uncharted category of danger. 400 years, she said, straightening, and the first honest compliment I receive is from a half-asleep cargo pilot who flew into my territory by accident, delivered while he believed I was about to feed on him. She shook her head slowly. The universe has a sense of humor I find almost impossible to forgive. For what it's worth, Darian said, finding a thread of courage from somewhere, I'd say it even if you weren't about to maybe kill me. You're still terrifying. I just think you can be both. Careful, Vespera said, but there was no heat in it now, only something low and considering. Flattery from the condemned is one thing. Flattery from a man who thinks he's safe is another matter entirely. I never said I felt safe. No, she agreed, eyes glinting. You didn't. She turned, robes and wings sweeping like a closing curtain, and gestured to the guards. Release him. Quarters near mine. He is not to be harmed. The guards stared. Darian stared. Even the ship seemed to hold its breath. My lady, one guard began. He is the first interesting thing to happen to me in a century, Vespera said, without turning back. I intend to find out if it was a fluke. As they hauled him, stunned, to his feet, Darian caught her watching him over her shoulder, dying star eyes, cold and ancient and, for just a fraction of a second, something almost like hunger that had nothing to do with blood at all. 40 hours without sleep, he thought distantly, had perhaps just saved his life. Or doomed him to something far stranger. Either way, he had a feeling the galaxy's smuggler bars were never going to believe this story.